make contact. The SOP would be direction and distance of the enemy and the composition of the force. So if I'm taking contact from the 3 o'clock, I would say 3 o'clock, the distance, 100 meters, and then the composition of the force. At the same time, while as an individual movement technique, I am moving to cover and concealment to protect myself while I'm shooting on the fly. It's a lot of things to process at once, but it becomes automatic because we drill it, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's say you do that, 3 o'clock, 100 meters, 2 enemy combatants in a bunker, and you move and you shoot and you get behind cover. What next? Well, now you have to make rapid decision-making under stress. And so the reason I use that as an example or an analogy is that's the conventional side of thinking. You can create a battle drill for responding to these type of things. But then when you hit the ground, it's like, what's next? You have to be responsive, and then you have to be cognitive and intentional about what the actions are going to be next. And that's non-conventional. We would call that unconventional or irregular. That's the difference between a light infantryman and potentially a Green Beret, right? We have to think outside the box. So what I would say is, like, no matter what you're faced with, or instilling it in your children even better, allow them to critically think. Because the missing component in most children is they have automatic responses based on learned behavior, but we aren't giving people the opportunity to critically think. So when I was put in situations where my squad leader, as a young infantryman, was like, figure it out. And I'm like, oh, I had to creatively think.
Yeah.
And then critically come up with a solution. And that was a game changer for me. So I was the guy in Ranger School as a 18, 19-year-old Ranger School student who understood how to creatively think rapidly, and then could come up with a plan. I could formulate a plan really fast. That, out of all the skill sets I learned, was my ability to be adaptable and resilient. Because the perspective or perception from the outside looking in is, man, that person is super resilient. Like they never get bogged down. When actually the method behind the madness is literally, I'm just a faster critical thinker, and I'm able to creatively come up with solutions and act. And so it's like, the guy's a good leader. That guy's he's a conventional and unconventional thinker. He thinks outside the box. Holy crap, that dude's really resilient. When all that is me able to think through problems and come up with solutions fast. So an example is my children. We're walking in the cold and they're shivering. I'm like, you're cold. What do we need to do? Because my daughter was on my back. And I put her down and said, listen, you have to walk, because if you walk, you're going to get warmer. Mm-hmm. You're going to warm up your core temperature. She's 4. And she's like, okay. She starts walking and she's like, Daddy, I'm warm. So I'm literally instilling her with the nuggets that are going to allow her to now have a solution through that. So that's the executive function of that. I'm giving her the learned behavior. Now we get to a position where we're inside of a tree and she's freezing. We can't walk because we're tucked up in the tree, staying out of the wind. She looks at me and she goes, Daddy, watch. And she marches in place.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, I'm getting warm. So now I gave her the learned behavior, the thing to do. I point at my infantryman as a team leader and I tell him to assault the bunker. But when he gets up to the bunker, there's obstacles to navigate. It's not as easy as he thought it was going to be, and now he has to switch on cognition. Now she's in the tree and she's going, oh, well, my daddy gave me the tool. If I just do this in place, I'm going to get warm like I was when I was walking. And now she's using critical thinking skills to think outside the box. We need both forms of that constantly instilled, and we have to be willing to expose ourselves to those challenges. You learn that through new skill sets as well. Like I tell guys all the time, like if you haven't hunted, go hunting. Because if you go hunting for the first time, the process of learning all these things is what's going to make you a better thinker, expose you to all these weaknesses and vulnerabilities, and make you more resilient as a human being.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as like, oh, I'm going to do the workout of the day and I'm going to be more resilient. It's like, no, there are things that you can go down in the weeds to become more resilient as a tactic versus a philosophy.
How much of it is related to pessimistic attitudes versus optimistic. So if my goal is to be mentally tough and have a resilient mind, then I need to train that. Just like if my goal is to be physically tough, I have to do training. But if my opposite of mental toughness is mental weakness, instead of going solution focused, the opposite of that is going to go problem focused and just let that problem bog me down.
Yeah, we talk about it in like your body being a byproduct of your mind, and your mind has the ability to chemically castrate your capability based on your mindset. With Winning in Mind, which is a great book on Olympic athletes, it talks about this a little bit as a reference. But like, let's say you're on a range and you're shooting a gun and you're not doing well. The instinct, the natural learned behavior is I'm not good enough, and shaking your head no. That's a pessimistic attitude. If you create a protocol to be optimistic by saying, you got this, man, no big deal, instead of defaulting to a learned behavior that's, I suck, you're going to chemically benefit your body. And so now they're working in conjunction. It's mind and body in a loop instead of it just being a byproduct where you're just basically creating negative impacts to your body and its capability based on what your mind's thinking. And so I think it's really important that people recognize that in themselves, that what you say, how you say it, especially in your own narrative, is going to create the confirmation bias. I mean, you don't go out into the world. It's like I always tell about religious people of faith, which I certainly am. A person who sees an accident where some child dies doesn't see that accident and go, I'm questioning God now. There's no exception. This is something that's different. A child was killed. I don't believe in God anymore. A person of faith sees it and goes, what was the circumstance? Oh, a child died. Oh, if that child wasn't killed, then another vehicle, a school bus full of children would have perished. That's a miracle of God. They're looking for their narrative to be confirmed with evidence, reaffirming their faith.